The views and opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Oh boy, what a day. It's Tuesday, the 8th day of December 2020. Welcome to the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Carla Zool. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, share the link, start a watch party, retweet it. Just get the conversation out there to your network. Another good one for you today. We have author, coach, speaker Leah Dean stopping by to talk about her new inspirational book. The Daily Players will remember when, so a very easy history question coming up for our dear friend Carla the Zool.
All of that, okay.
well, our famous auntie, that's what we can call her our auntie, right? What's her name? Not Gladys. Dionne Warwick. She did a video yesterday, actually, and she
still at it.
Basically, she was talking to us, Carla. She came at you and I, just like basically, yes, it was me. On my Twitter thing, whatnot. My niece Brittany got me into it, and da. So she basically said we two should stop trying to say that the elderly can't get down with Twitter. So she told us about ourselves yesterday. But yeah, Carla Duzul right there. Yeah, that you should make that your new handle. I mean,
I like that.
Look, you can literally say Dionne Warwick made your name cool. I think you can rock with that. Seriously.
I think I can too. Carla does do. I'm gonna change all my handles as soon as the show is over.
Carla does. I like it. So what we gonna call you? Yo, what's up? I mean, it's a nickname.
Well, after all the years of Zulu, Zuzu, and everything else, I can rock with the. That's fine.
So I hope you don't mind me saying this. So our voice guy Donovan, and Donovan's like the voice guy for almost every BET show, HGTV, Fox, McDonald's, Ford, CBS, you name it. But I'll never forget the first time I sent him something to say Carla's name, folks. He was like,
Zuil winner.
Well, yes. Like, so I actually was like, no, it's Zool. At least that's how we pronounce it in Bermuda. But it was quite funny because I don't think he's ever asked me how to pronounce anything, but he just had to get your name right.
I'm unique. Thanks, Donovan.
Yeah, you are unique. Unique you are. So on that note, a lot to discuss before we bring our guest for the day on, Carla. I came across something on ABC World News yesterday, and I sent you an article, not the exact same, but I sent you an article on it, and it was really reflecting the students, what students are dealing with right now. And for those who don't know, basically right now, schools have had a hard time, right? It's been a tough period for a lot of schools because children have not been to school. You're a parent. You obviously have students in your household. One of the things that I came across on ABC World News was that 42% of students have received an F during the what's this called? The school term, or since the pandemic. Now, they did not share what this rate was like pre-pandemic to make a comparison for me. But have you noticed it's become more difficult for your children and the students in your household during this period? And also want to ask the audience, especially those who are in the teaching field, as well as those who have parents and you know, I came across so many articles yesterday. One was how the woman in the household has taken additional things on and just if she was already stressed, now she's got to add teaching to her rule. But speak to us about your household, if you don't mind, Carla.
Well, I have my three at three different ages. So with my oldest, who's in college, two of her days were in person and one was online. So then now it's all online, but she has her own computer.
Mhm,
I have one computer, but the boys have devices. So with my high schooler, I I I can't stand it when it's online learning because he doesn't like it. And I get it because I don't either. And I had to finish my master's degree in the pandemic and I hate virtual learning, right? So I would have to go in his room every morning. John, are you up? And his under the covers, his singing his up, his own Google Classroom on his phone. You know, once you're under the covers, you're warm, is lights out, right?
mhm,
He's 14, so I didn't feel I had to micromanage him. But then I got the notification, oh, he didn't come to this class or this class. So it became an issue of contention with us. So I
mhm,
was so glad that he went back. Did he suffer? Not really, because he's really articulate, but I
mhm,
just felt it caused stress between us. Now, with Naeem is a little different because just before the pandemic, he was diagnosed with dyslexia.
mhm,
And they weren't able to give him any tools.
mhm,
Thus, they weren't able to give me any. So with him, I let him do some apps and stuff, but I didn't really push it. And again, I was doing my master's, so it was a bit, I would say, neglect on my behalf because I was trying to graduate.
mhm,
Um, but he didn't like it either.
mhm,
So when September came and they went back to school, I saw enthusiasm for school again. I saw an improvement with the boys. With the girl, she's fine. She's just a high flyer. But when a Johnny had to be called back for quarantine, and that 2 weeks, the battle started again.
mhm,
And I was like, he said, well, if I had your laptop, I'd pay attention. But then I have to work, I do the show. So with that article, it talked about low income families, or just think about families that just may have one device and have to balance so many things.
mhm.
So it was difficult. And I pray that they're back in school. So I'm praying it doesn't happen again because I do not like online learning. I can't
This is
stand
a
it.
tough question, and I want to note to the audience as well. Do you feel as if this school year, the last school year, should be a wipeout and should just be repeated, or is that asking too much?
Asking too much.
Mhm,
I think that schools have made considerations. Um, they've done some revision,
mhm,
but I don't think you can because that would be everybody basically, generically speaking, being set back for an entire year.
mhm.
So what they've done out here, for example, predicted
In the UK,
grades. I'm
in
sorry, yeah. Here
Manchester,
in
or
the
just like the UK period?
I can only speak for Manchester, but I'm pretty sure it's across the board. They've done predicted grades, but even that could be a bit unfair because you know some students pick up at the end of a school year,
Mhm,
but it's based on where they were in February.
mhm.
So it's a very sticky time, very sticky
Interesting
time.
indeed, and definitely something that we all shouldn't overlook from that respect. We have Tyra Simmons says, "My grandson needs the structure of a classroom." I'm one of those people as well. I needed a classroom. This is concerning. My school's children can't wear masks, and the teachers have to. Interesting there. Want to switch gears if you don't mind. So yesterday headline in the Royal Gazette was red tape slashed for home buyers from overseas. I want to get everyone's opinion about this because based on Bermuda Twitter, this didn't go over well. And so the Wayne Furbert, the cabinet office minister, said the legislation would better facilitate the sale of property to international buyers. So a lot of people feel like, oh, this is, what about Bermudians who want to buy a piece of the rock? Also goes on to say the article, the government will also no longer have to publicize property purchases overseas buyers in the Royal Gazette.
That was my issue right there.
Talk to me. Why is it an issue?
I read it. I figured I get it. Talking about the red tape, it takes months. They lose perhaps potential investors in Bermuda. But the thing that stood out for me is, are they only going to buy houses in a certain financial realm? So,
Hmm.
for example, if they're all done Turkestan or whatever opulent area in Bermuda, it's a little different than if they want to buy properties in Marsh Folly, where we're from, Paget, Somerset, where have you. The fact that it's not gazetted, the question for me, which the Shadow Minister Jarian Richardson asked, is why?
Hmm.
Because the first thing I think of is, well, are they trying to slip, or does it mean that people can buy a property in places that are potentially where Bermudians can't afford to buy? It's one thing where we can't, but where we can, I have a problem with that part of it, the not gazetting it. And then he said, Mr. Furbett said there was one objection in 13 years, and that was basically an unfounded objection. But I don't like that not gazetted part.
Well, I think the real estate agents love it. I've seen some real estate agents sharing on LinkedIn and Facebook, and they're just enthralled. But here's my concern with it. I truly believe, based on recent history, that if the OBA were government and this happened, the PLP as the opposition would be rallying the troops for a parade, pandemic or no pandemic. I just see that people have got to understand what they deserve and demand it regardless of who the government is. It's very simple. It's very simple. So I really, really have a problem with the PLP in some respect out UBPing or OBAing everything they would have had a problem with the other party, which is why I said on Twitter yesterday, a person wearing red who walks up to you and steals your wallet is no different from a person wearing green who does the same. Once we figure that out, we'll be ready to advance to the next stage in quote, this is politics. End quote.
Now, I have to agree with you, because that's what stood out to me mentally, was like, why are they doing this? This is not something that would seem that the PLP would stand for. And so I hate to be cynical, but it's like, why are they doing this? What's in the background? What's up? What's going on? Um, I didn't appreciate the gazetted part. I did not, because look at different areas that are changing. Their faces of the areas are changing as it is.
Mhm.
So imagine now, like I live Marsh Folly, where our homesteads are, and a gentleman said to me years ago, "Do not sell it. Do not." And I almost sold it, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because then it could be owned by someone in Texas or Las Vegas or whatever. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some debates. Like one young guy was saying that what don't Bermudians get? We need money. And one of the responses to him, I was just like, yeah, this needs to be discussed. Number one is we understand the country needs money, but Bermuda does not have the space, the land to uh, be selling vacation homes per se, when they don't even have enough places for people to live, right? So I just, through my life experiences with politicians, politics, governments, I've been able to put myself in a position where I see them no differently. I think we need to get to a place where we treat governments how they treat us, and we understand that a government needs its people. The people don't need its government. We need to lose the idea of dependency, because if you see Twitter Bert before the election and Twitter Bert after the election, it's a totally different person, right? So, folks, I see a lot of comments, and let's go to them. We have Shayna Smith says, exactly, Jamel. Let's call a spade a spade. The hypocrisy is real. Aziza Ahad Ferbert says, it's not what is said, it's who says it. Lindsay Kipps Gibbons, Carla.
The current government been told us their MO. The ends justify the means. Money needs to come in, and they are looking at every which way to get money in. Jamal was absolutely right. The PLP supporters wouldn't stand for it from the other side.
Talent TJ Clark says the only thing changing is the length of time from beyond a year to maybe 6 weeks to close a property that locals in general can't afford to buy anyway. Well, Jackie had some ideas about how locals can afford to buy that. Jackie, our co-host, she was on Twitter early. Like, she mentioned pooling money. Like, this has been a year of collaboration. I will forever look at 2020 through all the tragedy and unfortunate circumstances as a year of collaboration. Maybe it's time we collaborate in terms of buying our Bermuda. Think about it, something to think about. Kathy Ann Penn says, I remember being told by my elder that we have the government we deserve. Well, I remember the PLP, David Bird especially, at the cup match following the election of 2012 when the Bermuda Alliance won. And I think there were shirts saying, don't blame me, I voted PLP. Well, I'm going to get some shirts made, and I probably wear them. And they're going to say, don't blame me, I didn't vote PLP. Yeah, I think that's just. I think that's just based on what we're going on. Carla, let's go. Baby Rocco Dwan Levrock says, Jamal, I noticed that Berkeley is reverting to online learning. This should have been done same time as Cedar Bridge. Yes, I don't disagree. Daniel Woods, Carla.
Nothing changes to what currently occurs. They buy the top 1% of property, usually over 2.4 million. Around 12 of these homes will turn over during the year. Bermuda requires forced investment, and this enhances a current inefficiency. Now there is a whole nother issue with PLP talking out of both sides of their mouths. This isn't a priority that puts Bermudians first.
No, I thank you, Daniel, and Talent for that. I get that. I just feel like what he said at the end is my issue with it all. What he said at the end, but also what Jack is saying on Twitter. Follow Midge. I don't know. She's got some numbers behind it, but
27892.
What is it?
I think 27892. Don't ask me why I know that.
Jackie, you need an easier Twitter name. Come on, man. Tamara Richardson says, feelings of effect, using your analogy, it feels better to trust the person in green, even in fact remains they steal your wallet. Possibly with more insight than the men in red. The trauma is real. Indeed, indeed. Elizabeth says the bigger problem with me is that there doesn't seem to be any emphasis being put into making home ownership for Bermudians more attainable. I agree with that. I totally agree. This whole concept of properties we can't buy needs to stop. I agree with Jackie. Carla, we have to get to the news because we have a very special guest waiting for us in the background. Leah Dean, an exciting author who will be coming on for a conversation. All right, so we're going to go to the news. We'll be back with Leah after this.
Bermuda's Ministry of Health is seeking assistance from members of the public regarding potential COVID-19 exposures at 3 locations on the weekend of November 27th. Individuals associated with the following 3 events and locations have tested positive for COVID-19. Southampton Rangers on the 27th and the 29th of November, Flanagan's Outback Sports Bar on November 28th, and Friday's Trampoline Park on November 28th between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. If you attended any of these locations on these specific dates, please call the COVID-19 hotline at 444-2498 between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. to arrange COVID-19 testing on Thursday, December 10th between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health is advising individuals who attended these locations on these specific days to quarantine from others outside of their household until they are advised by the Ministry of Health. In the case of children, their primary caregiver should also quarantine. Turning to international news, the United Kingdom has become the first Western nation to begin vaccinating its citizens with a COVID-19 shot outside of clinical trials, a landmark moment in the coronavirus pandemic. The first Briton to get the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, 90-year-old Margaret Keenan, received the first of 2 doses this morning at University Hospital in Coventry, less than a week after the UK became the first country to approve it. Keenan, who turns 91 next week, said she felt privileged to be the first to get the shot. It's the best early birthday present I could wish for because it means I can finally look forward to spending time with my family and friends in the new year after being on my own for most of the year, she said, according to a statement released by the UK's National Health Service. It's December 8th, and today is Brownie Day. The first brownies ever made set the bar for the hedonistic indulgence that was to follow. Created by a fair luncheon in the late 1800s, the first variety of these were found bedecked in an apricot glaze and inundated with delicious walnuts. To this day, the Palmer House Hotel in Chicago serves the same recipe as that served to these ladies well over 100 years ago. Brownie Day was established by the millions of fans of this chocolatey, cakey treat, and the recipes that have cropped up over the years have been many. From chocolate mint brownies to those made with rich swirls of caramel, the variation of brownies are limited only by the extent of your imagination. Turning to weather, overcast with a chance of showers. Bermuda's high today is expected to reach 72, while Newark, New Jersey is expected to see a high of 38, and Bristol, UK, a high of 43. Don't forget to turn into the full100radio.com tonight for nighttime jams featuring some of your favorite romantic classics. That's your daily hour news break.
Carla, I just want to real quickly because it looks like there's some more tragic news. Did you know actor Natalie Desselle Reid? She was star of Baps. I've never seen Baps. I remember her from How to Be a Player and Medea's Big Happy Family.
I did read it some hour this morning. She died from colon cancer, I believe.
Yes, at 53, leaves behind a husband and 3 children. So definitely, what a year. 2 very young actors that we've lost due to colon cancer. So just a reminder, folks, based on the article I read, she was diagnosed earlier this year. So don't forget to get checked, and condolences to her family and fans. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our guest for the day, Leah Dean, an author with something special that you can buy and put under the tree for Christmas.
Good day, Medical House Store speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare.
I found myself being a caregiver. Even though I was a nurse, I still needed help on, what was available in hospital beds and all that kind of equipment, and I knew where to go. I went to Medical House.
Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products. These same professional quality products are available to you for home health care.
I was very pleased with Medical House and the help they gave me when I most needed it.
Your experience with Medical House is about getting your needs met, but we also try to provide knowledge to help you through whatever you're experiencing.
Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door.
I would recommend them to anybody.
Call or visit Medical House today.
We've already sung the praises of Welch's famous grape juice, so healthful and refreshing, a truly great family favorite. So with the festive season fast approaching, remember to stock up on Welch's sparkling juice cocktails, flavorful and thirst quenching, another celebration of the greatness of the grape. The Welch's white, red, and rosé are all wonderful on their own, but for a special seasonal treat, try Welch's sparkling juice cocktail in festive punch recipes, garnished with cinnamon sticks or fresh cranberries. All non-alcoholic and also festive. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Welcome back to the big show. Carla Zool right there. I'm Jamel Hartman. It is the Daily Hour. Thanks again to Medical House and Lindo's, along with Crimson Multimedia for their Channel 82, where Bermuda shines through. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Thank you all who continue to support us through those mediums. Without further ado, though, let's bring on our guest for the day, Ms. Leah Dean. Welcome to the show.
Morning.
How are you?
I am waking up. It's early.
Yeah, we always send extra appreciation to anyone who joins us, because we do understand it is very early, especially to be on camera. If it was radio, less time to get ready.
Yeah, I'm up 6 o'clock every day. It's the camera part that was the adjustment for this morning, but we're here.
I get it. Well, let's get straight to it. Obviously, you were in the corporate sector. You were very high up, I think VP in HR at one of the local reinsurance companies. But now, you've written a book. You're an author. You're a coach. What inspired you to write this book? And what exactly, for those who don't know, is the book about?
So, in terms of the inspiration, I tell everyone, or the story that I tell is I was really just enjoying a good night's sleep. And I woke up and something just said, hey, go to your computer. And, I just shared, I'm not a big fan of getting up in the morning. And so I was very reluctant to get up. But after about 30 minutes, the feeling just wouldn't go away. And so finally, I just went to my computer and I started typing. And an hour later, I had an outline for the book. And so in that way, I just tell everybody this book is divinely inspired. I did not intend to write it. But when I think about where we are right now in the world's history, what better time than to write a book that talks about why we need our relationships more than ever. So that, I think, is for me, it's been a really good indicator that the book was supposed to be written. And that's really exciting for me. The book is called Assemble the Tribe, and it's about how to unleash your unique value, redefine, this book's for females, your female tribe, and reimagine how you show up in the world. The topic is, this book specifically for women, but a lot of the content's not gender specific. We need our tribes more than ever right now.
I mean, we can still read it, fellas. Don't worry. She's
I have a whole bunch of guys, especially guys who have girl daughters, girl dads. They've really enjoyed the book. So some parts are not gender specific. They're for everybody.
There you go. So speak to us about a tribe. What is a tribe, and why is a tribe necessary, especially with all that's going on in the world right now?
So it's a really great question. I mean, to be honest, one of the biggest ahas that I had in the process of writing the book is that a tribe is not really what we think. And so when I sat down to write the outline that day, I literally thought that I was writing a book about how to help women form these healthy, thriving groups that you can travel life with. I've had a group of friends that, once a month, for almost 20 years, we get together like clockwork without fail. And that has allowed us to build this incredibly supportive network to deal with everything that life tends to bring its way. But what I learned in the process of writing a book, if you really want to experience success in those relationships, then we have to show up differently. We have to think differently every day. And, to be honest, that word tribe, it was a debate that I had with my husband and other folks over the course of writing the book, because when you look at the news, when you look at what's happening in the world right now, there's a lot of discussion around tribalism and how we entrench into divisiveness. And so as I researched the word and thought about how it was used, I really had to decide, am I even going to use this word to talk about this idea of relationships? And one thing I love about the word tribe is that it's incredibly complex. Some scientists say leave it in, others say just like throw it out and use ethnicity. But what I love about the word in the end was the absolute complexity of it. And if you think about who we are individually as humans, each of us are incredibly complex. And, I think as women, we're complex as well. And so for that reason, I think that it's perfect. And I would contend that a tribe is, and in the book, I explained this from a definitional point of view. A tribe is your one-on-one relationships. It's the group that you're a part of. It's also the people that you interact with on a daily basis that have similar views and beliefs. And so the question is, then how do we come together to create these healthy relationships in a world that right now is divided for so many reasons?
So, Leah, what do you think is the biggest misconception that women have about each other, which prevents them from creating tribes?
So when I think about the research that I did, and one of the questions that I asked is, what is it that creates a successful tribe? The things that come up are personality and trust as the top two issues that women tend to struggle with. And in the deeper research that I did, I asked, how many of you have experienced rejection, and how many women have been a part of a group? So when I looked at the data says that 71% of us have experience rejection, 50% under the age of 18, 25% under the age of 12. And so women, we have, what that says to me is at the moments in which we're the most vulnerable, when we're going through puberty and changing, that's when we're experiencing rejection, which then says to me, you know, when you get older and you're trying to think about how you engage in these relationships, in the back of your mind, you have all of these negative experiences. And so I find women tend to struggle with, you know, personality differences and trust as maybe the 1 and 2 issues that seem to get in the way in terms of us building healthy relationships.
Now, it's interesting you touched on that research, because that led right to my next question. So with those numbers cited, what practices do we need to unlearn as females that can help us to reduce these percentages?
So I think that, well, one of the things that I talk about in the book is really about shifting our mindset in terms of how we think about relationships. And there's a formula that I have for how I think we build healthy tribes. And the first part of the formula actually was a surprise to me as I started to kind of peel the layers back and put it back together. The first part of the formula, if we're going to build these healthy tribes, is to believe in your value. And a lot of times we think about these relationships and we, you know, think about the trust that we have with others, but we don't necessarily do the hard work to reflect on who we are and how we show up and what our values are and what we have to give. And if we are constantly struggling with our own sense of our own feelings of rejection or our own feelings of I am not enough, then it's very difficult to enter into these healthy relationships. And one of the reasons why I like the first part of the formula and the specific words that I use is because to believe in your value, so value is utility, it's importance, it's worth. And belief is a habit of the mind in which you build trust or confidence in a person or thing. So one of the things that we absolutely have to do as women is every day that we get up, we have to say, you know what? I'm valuable. I have something to offer to the world. And if you think about it, when I walk into a room, instead of worrying about what other people are thinking or if I'm not good enough, I'm walking in saying, hey, I have something to bring. I have something to give. There's somebody in this room who needs me today. And that's a very different mindset to take into a relationship. And so that's the first part of the formula. The second part of the formula is, well, once I've done the work on myself, and that's a daily thing, you know, we all have things that we struggle with on a daily basis, but once we've done an appropriate level of self-reflection, we can then go into these places where we need to find belonging. And I try to make the distinction between what it is to belong and experience belonging. We can all belong to a company, a group, a club, whatever it is, we can belong, but not feel like we experience belonging. And so when you go into these places, these groups, these one-on-one relationships, you're showing up differently and you're willing to have the necessary conversations that allow the group to flourish. And I find in the book, I break down a lot of the different things that get in the way for us as women. It could be anything from trust to time to personalities to sometimes it's hormones. Like there are things that tend to get in the way. And so we have to be willing to navigate those. And that's really what brings us to the last part of the formula, is to be different. Once we found this belonging, we should be able to leverage it to be different. Worst case scenario, we experience rejection, and all of us at some point in our lives will experience rejection. But if we've done the work on ourselves, if we've invested in really strong relationships, then even though it might hurt, we can still survive. And that really opens us up to find new people. And one of the things I always talk about is, depending on where you are in your life, you need different people and different tribes to help navigate those moments. I know I've needed quite a number of different tribes over the years.
Indeed. I want to go back, like, what right now, and I mentioned it before you came on. This is very good info as far as tribes, especially with women. And you can see in the comments, Chica Trot actually says women tribes are important as men have had old boys clubs for years. So obviously people see the importance of what you're discussing. But what is with all that's going on, and I mentioned it earlier before you came on, that right now you have women who are mothers and they have full-time jobs, and they've just taken on the extra job of the tutor and teacher and like the trainer, and it's just taken on so much. What advice would you give those women right now who feel like they don't have anyone there, or there's no tribe available to assist them?
The number one piece of advice that I would give those women, and the number one reason that I found in my own research it tends to get in the way, is time. You know, as women, we are so busy caring, and that's actually one of the reasons why I think the book is so important now. The world relies on women in a way that is not better, but it is disproportionate, and we see the impact as, you know, the virus is pushing us back inside, and women are taking on the role of caregiver and teacher, and that I think is really hard for us. And so the number one piece of advice that I would give to women is you have to figure out a way to carve out time. And what I do in the book is I try to share some of the science, because those relationships, they are not optional. You know, the research around social isolation and loneliness says that on average, it can increase your mortality by on average about 29%. And so when we're not connecting with these, when we're not making the time to create tribe, to build relationship, whether it's online, a phone call, a series of texts, whatever it is that you have to do to create that relationship, you need it to survive. One of the research studies that I looked at, you know, you were just talking about all of the people that were starting to lose from cancer. It was a very interesting study where they looked at women who had breast cancer and their cancer reoccurrence and survival rates. And they found that, you know, you can exponentially improve your ability to survive cancer if you have good quality relationships. And so for that woman who is overwhelmed, who's busy, who's struggling to make the time, think of it as an investment in your future, in your health, and it's really, really not optional. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm just saying if someone told you if you didn't take this medicine, you might pass away early, you take the medicine, you take the vitamin. And I'm suggesting that our relationships are actually the medicine and the vitamins that we need to survive, particularly during this pandemic.
So how do we get our teens, our preteen girls specifically, to embrace this? Because you know, growing up, it's usually they bicker, you know, they're catty, and it would seem the younger they develop these tribes, although they may not know their tribes, the healthier their adult relationships will be. How do you suggest that we infuse that into our girls without necessarily putting it too much over their heads as such?
So that's a great question. I have a 12-year-old. She will be 13 in 2 days. And so I'm literally living this as we speak. I actually have a whole chapter about this one's for the girls. I think the number one thing that strikes me is as parents and aunties and godmothers, we have such an incredible opportunity to influence our girls. I think one of the questions that I asked in the research study was, how many of you observe positive female relationships as children? And less than 50% of the women said that they had observed positive relationships. And then when I asked, and when you did observe positive relationships, what effect did that have on you? The majority of women said, I either wanted one of my own, or maybe I was still a little resistant, but I wanted to try. I was curious. And so that says to me that in the face of rejection and all of the things that we may sometimes experience as young women, our girls, they're looking at us, they're needing us to set an example. And so it really comes down to, I think in the first instance, how we show up and how we talk about other women as adults. So for example, during the pandemic, I took my daughter out shopping, and we were having, you know, it was the first time we had been out. So we were a little nervous, but, you know, the kids still grow. So you need to get clothes. And so we went into a store and we had this interaction with a woman in the store where she was really, let's just say, not pleasant. And so in that moment, I had to make a decision. Was I going to be frustrated and upset and talk to my daughter about it, or was I going to let it go? And I chose in the moment not to react, but we talked about it later that day. And I said, listen, I'm not necessarily trying to excuse what she did, but we never know what people are dealing with or struggling with on any given day. In the same way we were nervous about going into the store during a pandemic, maybe she was nervous in serving her customers. And so I really just tried to give her a different perspective. And I said, you know, when that happens, you can either deal with it and deal with it constructively, or you can choose to let it go and give people the benefit of the doubt. Because so often, you know, we tend to believe that when somebody does something, that is a reflection of their entire personality and who they are, when actually we need to see more of how people show up over time to judge who they actually are. So it's in those moments where you can, you know, say a kind word or not be disparaging. Our kids are looking and watching more than we think. Sorry, that was a long answer, but.
Nah, it was in depth. I
No, but
appreciate it. Yeah. Leah, you finished the book. It went on. It launched on December 1st, correct?
December 1st, yeah.
All right. What are some of the lessons just from, you know, writing this book? You've obviously been on doing a media tour basically, and that we appreciate you stopping by here, by the way.
I'm excited.
But what are some of the takeaways, some of the things that you've learned as the author throughout the entire experience from the start of writing the book to now?
Wow, that's a good question. There's a lot of things that I've learned about writing. It's not as easy as one thinks. I probably edited the book maybe about 40, 50 times. So, you know, you get to the end and you still don't feel like it's perfect. But at the end of the day, if you have something to say, and I would say this holds true for writing a book, doing what you do on the daily hour, even if you're just posting positive messages, it is unlikely that our work will ever be perfect. But even in our imperfection, it can still have an impact and change a life. So I've had to learn to let go of my desire for everything to be perfect or close to perfect and just share it. I think that's really important, especially for people who are interested in writing a book. In terms of the actual content and the book itself and what I've learned that, you know, tribes are not just these groups that we connect with. Our tribes are everyone, literally, that we come into contact with, and how we show up matters. That tribes are, the way that we navigate them has a lot to do with how we think. You know, there's a proverb that says, as you think, you are. And so that's been a huge shift. I mean, I can't say that I'm perfect, but I think the book, and some days I pick it up when I'm prepping for media, and the book is still teaching me, because every day we struggle to, I think, believe in our value and show up in the positive way that we want to. And specifically as women, you know, I host an event, and, you know, we were talking about perimenopause and hormones. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we intend to do that, for a variety of reasons beyond our control, some days we just can't show up and be our best self. And so I think recognizing how complicated we are as human beings, but how much grace we actually need to survive, particularly given where we are in the world's history. I could run on forever, but those are just a few things that are hitting me in this moment.
Indeed, indeed. Let's go to some comments. You have quite the fan club, so those book sales should be doing good.
Hey guys!
Canette Island Empress Burgess says, love it. Choose not to pass the hate. Let it end with you. Sometimes people are just having a bad day. Empathy. Love how she handled it with her daughter. Don't react, but educate and enlighten woman tribe.
Yes.
Painter. She says, absolutely. I have explained to my nieces and goddaughters that they are women by nature, but they will be ladies by nurture.
Yes, I love that.
And Tamara Richardson says, I heard Leah share a great piece of advice, quote, don't put your feelings into your phone, end quote. In this day and age, that is such an important lesson for our young women. And
Yes, thanks for that, Tam. That's a big one. Carla, to get back to your question about raising our girls, one of the number one lesson that I have for my daughter with managing her feelings and my son to some extent, but he doesn't really like the phone, is to never put your feelings in a phone. This generation, they communicate, and so much of their lives revolve around their devices. It's how do we teach them the skills to have conversations, because and my daughter will say, there's so much that you lose in the back and forth on devices when you can't see people. And so I'm just really excited that that's one lesson that she's learned from me and seems to be taking it on board. And I watched couple months ago where there was an exchange going on between the girls, and she, at a point, she said, "Hey guys, we need to stop talking on the phone and maybe get together, because it worked so well the last time." So when you're teaching, and then even when it doesn't seem like they're listening, they're taking it in, but we just have to show up differently in the first instance.
Indeed, indeed. And before we let you go, please share with us how people can go about purchasing your book. Show us a picture as well. I know you have it there. Give us some info.
This is the book. I need to check in, but we had a little delay due to shipping, but the hope is that it will be on island and in stores. If you follow me on social media or check out my website, I have links to all of the stores in Bermuda. If you are not in Bermuda, it is available globally on Amazon.com. It is up and it's live. So read it, like it. If you do, leave a review. That helps the book to be shown by more people. But I'm so excited. We should have them in stores next week.
Can you order the hard copy through Amazon or only digital? You can do the hard copy, paperback as well.
On Amazon, you can do ebook, hardback, and paperback.
I prefer paperback. I still can't get into
Yeah, it's something about just holding a book in your hands and being able to mark it up. And that's another thing about this book. Not only, am I sharing information and stories, but at the end of each chapter, there are questions and reflections. So if you wanted to do it with a book club, or even with a friend, I found when I sit down and look at my own questions, there are some things that I need to explore with some of my friends, and I wrote the book. So I think paperback and being able to touch it will be helpful.
Congratulations.
Right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming, and all the best. I think I'll be making a purchase for someone in my family. So thank you for including us and touching our audience with the information, and hopefully they will be touched by the words in this book and be as inspired as many others will be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We need our tribes more than ever right now.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do.
Thanks again.
All right. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Awesome. Oh, looks like a lot of
Jamal, you can order on Amazon and have it shipped to Manchester. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, right. Okay, that's a good idea. I think I may do that. Consider your Christmas gift done, Carla. Some more comments. Let's go to the comments. Paulette Burrows says, "Congratulations on your book. Awesome. Congrats." Nikki Michelle, very proud of you, Leah, for demonstrating the discipline and stick-to-itness. I like that, stick-to-itness to become a published author. Congratulations. From Amanda Kelly, the Chico Truck, very inspiring message. Thank you. Keisha Allen Smith, Keisha's got a book coming out too. Congratulations, Leah. Angie Can says, "Congratulations." Jamaica Smith, love this conversation. Congrats on the book. Vanessa Simons gives a round of applause. So thanks again to Leah for having this conversation, and thank you to the audience for embracing the information that was discussed. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back to wrap it up. We have we have a bit more to discuss. We have more guests coming up this week that we'll touch on, and don't miss the Daily Play, because I want to see if anyone's going to get this. I think it's easy, but something tells me no one's going to get the answer to this unless they Google it. We'll be right back.
Not even me?
Unless they Google it.
The halls with smartphone data, fa la 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 la. Spread Add your holiday cheer with next one. Fa la 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 la. Free devices, phones and TVs. Fa la 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 la. Visit our website for more info. Fa la 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 la. Give some unexpected joy this season with free devices, plans that now include more data, and bundles for the whole family. Happy holidays from One Communications.
And welcome back. Carla's right there. I'm Jamel. One Communications there. I don't know how to ask you. I'm just going to ask you. So it's daily playtime. If this is your first time watching the show, this is when we do a little trivia question. And you know this is one of Carla's favorite times of this show, right? So here's the question for the day that she's going to need your help with. You ready, Carla?
I am.
All right. So you would agree that it is currently the holidays. So it's like Christmas time, right?
Okay.
All right. So that's where we're going with the question. So here's the question. In what year did the Bermuda Christmas Boat Parade begin?
Two thousand 2001. Okay, it's around that time though, because Kiki was born in 2001 early. So 2002 maybe? It's in the early, it's in that around that time. Oh, David Googled it. 98.
Of course he Googled it. Of course he Googled it. But
no one holds that much random information.
exactly,
No one.
exactly. But 1998 was the year that the Bermuda Boat Parade actually began. It was, I believe, 90 boats participated. So 1998 was the first year. It's held every other year, and 90 boats participated in the first year in 1998.
I graduated from uni and then I partied until I had her. So that's why those years are a blur. So I stick to 2001.
Well, Carla, you weren't far off, really. I mean, it's only 3 years. But some people may say, yeah, but it was 2 different centuries, 2 different decades, 2 different, you know how they do you.
And Google is never wrong. So David, good Googling, boo. Thank you.
Yeah. Because as Carla said, no one retains that amount of information about random things, right?
No one.
A very good conversation today. Once again, thank you so much to Leah Dean for doing this. Really, really appreciate her stopping by and engaging with the audience with such information. So don't forget, folks, go check the book out, Assembling the Tribe. Leah Dean, available on Amazon, and it will be in Bermuda soon. And when it is, we'll be sure to make sure she lets us know so that we can share with you. Carla, do you have any inspiration for us today?
Yeah, the quote I found today was in honor of Leah. My friends have made the story of my life. In 1,000 ways, they have turned my limitations into beautiful privileges. Helen Keller.
Nice. I like that. I like that. That's so cool. I like how you tied it in as well. That's pretty cool. Well, you tie it in all the time, but I didn't see that one.
Well, I'm big on the whole women thing, and so when we knew Leah was coming on, I was like, I had to do something specifically for her. So Helen Keller be dropping some science, though.
Yeah. Even Leah loved that. Look at that. So
that was for you, Leah.
I have to ask Carla, because if you didn't know, as she stated yesterday, her youngest son Naeem turned 11 years old. So I just want to know, how did he everyone wants to know, actually, how did he react to your lie? I mean, his gift.
So he came in, the box was all gift wrapped, and he was like, and he was looking at me, and then he opened it, and then I let him play, and he was just so excited. So he was quite grateful. And then he wanted to just go get something to eat at his favorite little restaurant. So I took him, and then we sang happy birthday. Beautiful cake, football cake, awesome. But he had a really good birthday. So thank you everybody for the warm wishes. Where has 11 years gone?
So did you make him go to school today?
You know what? He jumped up early and he was out the door. He walked. Usually he's trying to get me drive him to school. It's only like 2 minutes away. He walked to school with bells on. So he was in a good mood with
Oh
his
man,
cake in his bag.
you're probably wishing he has a birthday every day, huh? What else?
Ask him. You have to ask him what's his favorite subject at school. And you know what he always says?
What?
What would Jarrell Hartman say?
I mean, no, I didn't like school until college, so I would say nothing.
So, he is his home time.
There you go. Like, I'm not a fan of. He and I are just alike in that respect. But one day he's gonna love it when it matters most. So stick.
He will. Yeah.
So tomorrow, for those tuning in, tomorrow we're gonna have Sherry Vanderpool coming on. She is the host of a podcast called
Given HED.
Given HED. She conducts some very good conversations with people. So ensure that you tune in. And this has been the year of the podcast, right? Podcast did not just begin. But I just want to let people know we're going to have a conversation. We've had other podcast hosts on, but she'll be coming on. Her podcast is a bit different as she focuses on conversations, lifestyle, and so on. So just discussing podcast and what they mean for people, not just the people who are hosting them, but the people who actually listen and enjoy them, and what kind of content she delivers and that people are interested in. So
you know what else makes it special? It's for us, not you, over 40s.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be there soon. But yeah, it's for the older generation. I'm gonna say the older folks, but a podcast directed, a podcast directed at more seasoned people. So looking forward to having her on, and then closing out the week, we'll have some other good conversations. So stick with us. Carla, any final words based on today's conversation?
I really enjoyed this conversation with Leah. I think some of us have tribes and didn't realize it. And then it had me nostalgic thinking about my close circle. I have different pods of tribes. And so I just encourage everyone to get her book. And I can't wait. Like, I want to read it. There's so much to discover when we open up our minds to possibilities. And I love how she wants us as women specifically to be together. Absolutely love it. So.
Indeed. I know Nachika mentioned like old boys clubs, but honestly, I do consider my group of friends tribes, and there's different groups. And I always look at my friendships as how are we helping one another? How are we benefiting one another? Because if there's no benefit, what value is the relationship? That's just being very honest. We should each be able to hold each other accountable and help each other become better people. So that's the value in the relationships, and I guess the tribes, not old boys clubs, that we have. Folks, I just have one request before we let you go for the day. If you haven't already, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Subscribe. If you haven't already, on Facebook, like our page. Some of you have followed, but not like. Like the page and follow the page if you haven't followed it, but like and follow. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, make sure you follow the Daily Hour. Very easy task. Nothing to it. All right. I'm telling you this to help you because there's some special things coming up in the next couple of weeks as we head towards the end of the year. All right. So on that note, you know what I usually say at this time. We appreciate you. We love you. And we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. Call Azul. I'm Jamel Hartman. We're out.